Tube, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, welcome. I am Tamara Scott. It is the Tamara Scott Show where we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. And as someone just reminded us, in fact, it was Congressman Molinare from Michigan, these are not just headlines. These are families. But we thank you for joining us every day. We thank you for being concerned about the truth, wanting information. We don't get caught up in the headlines because God has a plan and a purpose for you. We're not going to be distracted, but we'll better know how to be equipped and strategize and how to best protect our families and move forward and pray. So joining me today is the Honorable Alan Quist. We'll talk with him in just a moment. We know Alan Quist, his wife Julie, is on the board. I think they both served on the board for CPL Action, Child Protection League. Always great information anytime we have someone from that organization. Let me go to a couple headlines first. As I said, Congressman Molinare, if I'm saying that correctly, says these are not just headlines. Thomas, I don't know if you got that link yet. If you can go to that link, it's a Facebook post. If you have that one. Haven't gotten it. I sent it. I'll tell you what, the traffic's slow. The traffic's slow between here and him. So let me know when you get that. Maybe we'll do this a little at the end, and I'll go ahead and I will welcome Alan. So Alan, in his own right, an honorable former state representative in Minnesota. Okay, we just got it. Let me run to it real quick. I'll take a bleep. There you go. So I think that is Congressman John Molinare saying these aren't just headlines, these are real families. And so what we're talking about here, look at this. Major U.S. airports are asking people to donate gift cards and essentials to the TSA workers who are going without pay. And then there's more about workers going without pay. The family is paying the price for working without pay. His others workers set to go without paychecks. This is unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. We're dealing with such fraud we saw in Minnesota. Remember the numbers, the high dollars of fraud, and yet we can't pay those who are working to keep us safe. Do you not see the agenda by the left? Do you not see the agenda of the Democrats in all of this? Let's go to one more. Let's go to that next photo. A 12-year-old assaulted. Oh, I sent you the same link. Doggone it. I don't know if I put it on the Tamara Scott Show page or not. A 12-year-old in a park. Two men come after her. She knows, sadly, she knows what's going on. She warns them, I'm only 12. They assault her anyway. My point to all of you, we're going to talk about consequences in the classroom, consequences in the culture, consequences of bad decisions and ideas with our guest today. Until these perpetrators and predators understand that there are consequences and punishment, even penalty of death in some of their actions. These will continue. Our children will be assaulted. They will be victims. It will continue until we make the punishment enough that the predators fear it and will restrain themselves. Or we clear our country out of those who don't care to live under this law, be here legally and live under our Constitution legally. We have a decision. Surrender the children, make them victims. And for all of you who don't agree with securing our borders, with securing and putting people who want to harm children away, then let's hear not one more word of the Epstein files. Not one more word. Because there's an inconsistency and hypocrisy there. You don't want to just see the names you recognize get in trouble, the people who may be in power get in trouble. You should see everyone who harms children in trouble. And you should make it so that it's more difficult and people don't want to harm children. All right. So Alan Quist served 3 terms in 1983 to 1987 in the Minnesota House of Representatives, where he was the chair of Social Service Committee. Maybe we can ask him about some of the things we just talked about. Vice chair of Human Services Committee. He's a retired professor of political science, logic, and Christian apologetics at Bethany Lutheran College, Mankato, Minnesota. He also taught as an adjunct professor at Christian apologetics in Bethany Lutheran Theology Seminary, and he holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Gustavus Adolphus College and a Master's of Arts degree from the University of Minnesota, a postgraduate divinity degree from Bethany Lutheran. Well qualified. Alan Quist, it's an honor to have you on the program.
Well, Tamara, it's an honor for me to be on the program and have an opportunity to share some very, very important information with your audience, because there are a lot of things that people in our country need to know and aren't very, very much aware of at this point.
So, Thomas, I think I sent a link at the intro of the book. Alan, you've written 10 books. I did not realize that. So I just popped this one up. This is evidence that the Bible is true on apologetics. Tell to us about some of the other books you've written and where could people find them?
Well, first of all, this book you can buy on Amazon for, I think it's a high price of $11.95. Best deal around. It's selling very well. It's got a rating of 4.6 out of 5 on Amazon. And by the way, I don't get people to send in ratings for me. I mean, this is an honest rating. So it's very well received, and it's sold really by word of mouth. But it deals with the question, is the Bible true? And it demonstrates that the evidence for the truth of the Bible is absolutely overwhelming. And the reason I wrote it is because the truth of the Bible is the major fault line today in religion in the Western cultures, including the United States. You know, a couple generations ago, we might have thought, well, the major fault line is between, let's say a Lutheran, a Catholic, and a Baptist. Well, those differences are there, but today the major fault line is, does this church body, or it might say, does this person recognize that the Bible is true? And that is the fault line, and it's one that Christian people need to get on top of and inform, their members, their people, their friends, their neighbors about this information. So it's a wonderful book, and I would encourage everyone to get a copy. Best deal around.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a great deal, actually. It's a very good deal. If you're homeschooling your kids, I think this would be a great resource for you to have. If you're training up teenagers, whether you're homeschool or not, a great resource for you to have. And for those of you who have to talk to coworkers across the water cooler, neighbors across the backyard fence, or somebody on a campus, this is a great way for you just to study up a little bit before you have a conversation. When you can more aptly, confidently explain why you believe what you believe, less likely to get tense, less likely to get angry. Conversation can stay friendly. All right.
By the way, a good way to get people into the conversation is to ask them a question like, and this is the question I like to ask, did you know that the evidence that Jesus rose from the dead is very strong? Now, if you ask people that question, you're confronting them with an idea that in all likelihood, they've never heard before, which is amazing. I mean, we're a quote unquote Christian country, and people don't know that the evidence for Jesus' resurrection is astonishing. We need to know that. And when people ask us, why do you believe what you believe? We need to be able to tell them, well, here is the evidence for the resurrection. That includes the Shroud of Turin, but there's a lot of other evidence too.
Very good.
By the way, I'm just publishing a new book, and this one is called Discovering Lost Biblical Truths. And it'll knock your socks off, okay? And it should be out soon. Discovering Lost Biblical Truths. It's like I say, it deals with information that everybody should know, but almost no one does.
Let me know when that one's available. We'll get you back on air.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. All right, so we've got to go to break in 3 minutes. We can either start where you want to start with some of the topics you want to discuss. We also can promote your event. Your event's coming up for CPL Action April 25th. I know the date because I can't be there this year. And I have to tell you, your lineup is powerful as always. And I'm so disappointed I'm going to miss it. Do you want to talk to our viewers about it briefly?
Hmm. Well,
They can register at
yeah,
CPL
go to CPL
education.
education.com. Go to cpleducation.com and you'll get the full story. And you'll be impressed at the speakers. And I mean, it's really high powered. And that's all we do is high powered presentation.
I think you have Laura Logan. There you go. Perfect. Thomas, you are so good. Laura Logan, Liz Collins. I am so disappointed I can't be there this year. Always great information. So there you go. CPL Action, I think you said .education.com. So there you go. Great information. And if you just search cplaction.com, I think you'll find it as well. All right. So.
Yep.
All right. And good to hear your support staff there with you as well, Miss Julie. Right.
Right.
And you know what I don't know if it was on your bio. I think I saw it, maybe in the book bio. 10 kids and 52 grandkids.
Right. And I think it's around 20 great grandkids. But no, but my grandkids, I know the names of everyone. Don't ask me for birth dates. That's Julie's responsibility. But yeah.
So my grandmother didn't have quite that many. She had 20 some grandkids and 33 was it great grandkids, but she would pray, and some great grandkids, I believe, but she would pray over everyone every day by name. Every day by name. Such a legacy. All right, let's do this. Let's go to our break so we can come back and just have this conversation. So when we come back, we'll be with Alan Quist, former state rep out of Minnesota, author of 10 books. Sounds like great books that would be great resources on your shelf. And we'll be talking about the consequences of bad ideas in our classroom, in our culture, and in our country. Stay tuned. I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com. All right, thank you for staying tuned with us. A little bit of a follow-up. We said yesterday that one of the senators was going to text me last night, talk about that provision they were trying to pull out. The House had passed a bill reducing those emergency powers that never should have taken place when governors overstepped themselves all over the Constitution, all over the nation. And so they were correcting that situation, not just with churches and hopefully with employees and businesses as well, but also that with the mandates, vaccine mandates. Senate pulled that out so that a governor could mandate vaccines in a health emergency. Well, they got it back in last night. I talked to that senator, as I told you. I didn't get to talk to him last night, but I think he just I don't think it was as easy as a headline as they made it. So anyway, it came back in the bill. You have that ban that the governor cannot mandate vaccines during health, but there was a trade-off. There are those in the Senate, in leadership, who used it as leverage to remove the leverage of your Senate members who worked so hard last year to get that vote on eminent domain to protect your property rights. For 3 or 4 years, we've been battling this, and they finally just said, we're not voting for a budget until you put this up for a vote. It passed, and then it was vetoed, remember? This year, they're taking away the ability of those members to force the vote again, so they can't protect you and your property rights. And they're going to do some type of a budget bill. Our guest, Alan Quist, can tell you what it is as the CRT. We hear it in the National all the time. I just can't remember the phrase. But they wouldn't need your budget. If you didn't pass a budget, it just goes to last year's budget. So they're going to, again, reduce their own power, reduce their own effectiveness to refuse to vote on eminent domain and protect private property. It's astounding to me. So that's where that bill lies. All right. Alan Quist is our guest. He served 3 terms in the Minnesota House, so he knows exactly probably what I'm talking about better than I do. But Alan, thanks for joining us today.
Well, the pleasure is mine, Tamara. And my intention today is to help people understand what's happening in our education system, kindergarten, preschool through 12, also at the college level. And unfortunately, most people don't have a clue as far as what's going on. And so I'm going to do my best to give people the real story. By the way, I've written a number of books on this subject too. They go back a little farther. But it's something I've worked on all my life. Having been a college prof myself, been in the legislature, and mostly I'm a researcher. And so I want to know, I'm terribly curious. I want to know what's going on. And so let me start with this, that the overriding message that you folk are going to hear is that we're dealing with a Marxist takeover of education in the United States and in Western countries generally. And when I say Marxist takeover, I've found in talking to people that I have to say something about what Marxism is. Because unfortunately, we're not terribly well educated, and a lot of people don't really know what Marxism is. So let me begin with what Karl Marx himself said Marxism is, and that is this. Karl Marx said, "My goal in life is to dethrone God and to destroy capitalism." Okay, and that means replace capitalism with socialism. And we know how well socialism works, how it led to the destruction of the Soviet Union, for instance. So that's what we're talking about. Okay, when I say, and I know Tamara sees this too, that the socialists are taking over education, the Marxists are taking over education. This is what they're up to. They want to get rid of God. They're officially atheistic. And they want to get rid of free enterprise. They want to get rid of capitalism. And I would say we're looking at a failure of government officials in not informing the public in terms of what's happening. And I'm going to add to that, we're looking at a failure of the church. Karl Marx said himself, we are going to replace Christianity with Marxism. Okay? That's the goal. The Marxists hate Christianity because they know Christianity is their main opposition, because Christianity believes in things totally contrary to what Marx believed. So let me go from that to the most influential Marxist of our time, and that's the Italian Marxist known as Antonio Gramsci. And if you would do a person on the street interview in any area of our country and ask people, can you tell me who Antonio Gramsci is? I doubt if 1 in 100 could answer that question. And yet he is the most influential person in education today. And I say that without any qualifications. And the second most influential is his follower, who is the practitioner, by the name of Paulo Freire. And that name too, I mean, people have never heard it. It's pretty amazing how uninformed we are about what's happening in education. Well, anyway, let me go back to Antonio Gramsci. He is known as he is an Italian Marxist. He started the Italian Communist Party in Italy, and he was in prison during the Second World War because Mussolini was afraid of him, and he actually died in prison in 1937. But while he was in prison, he wrote extensively on what he believed had to take place. And when I say had to take place, he wrote extensively on what he believed had to take place for the revolution. This is the Marxist revolution, the Marxist takeover of the entire world. Okay, what he believed had to take place for the Marxist revolution to succeed. And he died in 1937, but he wrote in Italian, and his works were first translated into English in 1997, translated by an individual by the name of Joseph Buttigieg, okay, who just happens to be the father of Pete Buttigieg, who was Biden's Secretary of Transportation. And Pete Buttigieg was the first openly homosexual to serve on a cabinet in anyone's administration in our country. So that's his claim to fame. So we're looking at people who are, very much radicals. Well, Gramsci had a modification on Marxist theory, and he was a man of his time because at the time when his works were translated by Pete Buttigieg into English, the Marxists were struggling. They were what should I say? They were they were trying to determine what to do, how to proceed, because they realized that classical Marxism was failing, and they realized that for two reasons. Number one, they began to realize the how well they call it the obsessive actions or the whatever, I'll just say the murderous actions that Marxist theory led to. And we're dealing with a theme here. Ideas have consequences, and they have major consequences. So Joseph Stalin in the USSR, old USSR, was a follower right down the line of Marxist thought. And what people realized is that what followed from Marxist thought was a lot of lives lost. And for instance, Farm Journal, which I'm going to refer to, and by the way, this is not a political magazine. Farm Journal reported that for Lenin to institute collectivism, Marxism, in agriculture, in the Soviet Union led to the murder of 10 million farmers. If anybody resisted, they were just shot. We know that the way that the Ukraine was handled by Lenin in terms of the starvation that was forced on the country led to the deaths of 10 million Ukrainians. And I could go on and on. I mean, some people said that Lenin's application of Marxism led to the deaths of 100 million people. Now, I haven't done the math on that, but it was certainly a lot. So that was one problem the Marxists had. And being a product of the university myself, I was very familiar with the Marxist influence in the university, which is considerable. So that was the one problem. But the second problem, and the biggest one, was when the Soviet Union fell apart, and that happened in 1991, and it happened under the watch of Mikhail Gorbachev. And the reason it happened is that when Gorbachev took office, the economy in the Soviet Union was declining by 10% a year. So 10% a year decline. So obviously, it was going down. And so Gorbachev didn't free all the satellite countries out of the goodness of his heart. I don't think there was a lot of that there. But he didn't have any choice. The Soviet Union didn't have the finances to keep the Union together, and so it fell apart. And so here you've got the committed Marxists, let's say in our countries, a lot of them at the universities, realizing that Marxism ideas have consequences. Many millions of people dead because of it, and a society, an economic system that falls apart. And so where do we go? Well, they went to the Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci. And the reason they did is because Gramsci said that Marx was right, except the major dynamic in the world is not economic. To Marx, it was the rich versus the poor, the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. That's what Marx said. Gramsci said, no, that's not the main dynamic. The main dynamic is cultural, not economic. And so it gave the Marxists another way to try to resurrect their theory, and that's what they've been doing ever since. And so Marxism today is often called cultural Marxism, and that means it's Gramsci's Marxism, and it deals with the culture. So, so Gramsci said that for the revolution to succeed, and this is worldwide Marxist takeover of every country, that's what the revolution is all about. For the revolution to succeed, two things had to happen. Number one, the Marxists had to control the media, which they have done a marvelous job of here in the United States. And secondly, they had to control education, which they are also doing a marvelous job on in the United States. And so today I'd like to focus mostly on the control of education, which is very advanced. And I'm, of course, the most familiar with Minnesota, having served in the Minnesota legislature. And so let me say just a little bit about what's happening in Minnesota. And Minnesota is one of the leaders, clearly, in the Marxist takeover of education. But other states, by and large, are doing very similar things. So in Minnesota, first in terms of consequences,
All right.
when...
Before we get to the consequences, Alan, we're due for another break, so let's just go to that break right now. We'll come back and come
Sure.
into your education and the consequences. Stay tuned.
Okay.
This is good stuff. I think most of us, we hear Buttigieg. If you did the study, if you're willing to go down the rabbit hole, you might have heard the connection there with his father. And I think was it Gramsci that you mentioned? But this is, I think we just need more study. I wish our kids were able to study this. We'll be right back after this message. Stay tuned.
Do you like drinking toxins that could cause cancer, inflammation, and all kinds of other autoimmune diseases? Of course you don't. Well, much of our water in America is full of toxins. That's a proven fact. WorldviewWater.net. WorldviewWater.net is your solution so that you can drink good, clean water. In fact, I give it to all my 3 fur babies, all my 3 dogs. I have one under my kitchen sink, one of these filters, as well as on my shower. WorldviewWater.net.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango-colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro Helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help with Numi Neuro, the mango colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best. All right. Representative Alan Quist, former State House member in Minnesota, author of 10 books, is joining us today. Alan, thank you for taking time out. We want to get right back to you. Understanding the education and the consequences of the bad ideas we've had concerning it.
Thank you, Tamara. So as I was saying, Gramsci said, for the revolution to succeed, the Marxists would have to control the media, which they've done marvelously, effectively, and control education. And the media was probably shorter term. They did that quite quickly, but education is taking a little more time. So consequences of the ideas. In Minnesota, when Governor Walz took office, Minnesota was always in the top 5 in terms of education achievement. And that was according to the national test called the NAEP test, which is a federal government test, is also true for the SAT. Well, today, after a number of years of Walz being governor, Minnesota is now 19th instead of being in the top 5. And so the education scores nationwide have declined. But Minnesota has declined more than most. And the reason is obviously because Minnesota now is more interested in teaching Marxist doctrine, Marxist ideology, than about teaching academic knowledge and skills. And let me give you just one example of that, is the way it works in Minnesota. And I know other states are somewhat similar in this, but states have some leeway in terms of how they're forcing Marxist doctrine into their schools. But in Minnesota, as of July 1, 2025, for a teacher to become certified to teach in a public school, that teacher has to agree to implement new certification standards. And these are called the Pelsby standards, but they're teacher certification standards that teachers have to agree to be certified. Well, not surprisingly, these certification standards, which are supposed to be about skills in teaching, and used to be about having basic skills in teaching, are no longer that. Now they're a test of worldview, test of philosophy, test of ideology. And the new certification standards in Minnesota are 100% Marxist doctrine to the core. And so it was Paulo Freire who said that for someone to be able to teach, they have to be committed to the revolution. And that's basically what we're seeing with these standards. So any teacher now being newly certified has to agree to these ideological standards. At the core of these standards is what the Marxists refer to as equity. And everybody, God willing, in our country needs to know what that means. It does not mean equality. Equality means equal opportunity. Equity means equal outcomes. In other words, it's the Marxist notion of everybody has to be equal in terms of living standards and you name it. And so they center on equity. And I want listeners out there, I want you to realize, as soon as you see the word equity in some kind of education program, you need to know this is Marxist, okay? It's Marxist. So let me give a couple of examples of how that's put into practice now in our country. You have the ongoing issue, of course, of men in women's sports. Well, this is part of the Marxist agenda, and that's why the left defends it. I mean, it's totally irrational. Everything in Marxism is irrational, but it's a matter of blind faith in this terrible worldview. So, what's the relationship between equity and men and women's sports? Well, equal outcomes. And so, if you have, for instance, a man who says, "Well, I would like to play in women's sports. I think I would do a lot better there," that person should have the same result, regardless of whether he's male or female. And so if a male says to be, I want the same outcome, then yeah, I mean, he is eligible to participate. Or take the matter of gender change surgery. And of course, it's not really that. It's all make-believe change. But in gender change surgery, the idea is, well, again, if a man says, well, I really kind of admire the body parts of a woman, well, to have equal outcomes, then you should have the opportunity to have those same body parts. I mean, it's loony, it's crazy, but that's what it is. I mean, that's what it comes to. And so Marxist thought has nothing to do with the real world. It has nothing to do with information. It has nothing to do with rationality. It's all this wacky ideology of equal outcomes. Let me give another example. As it relates to white supremacy, which is aggressively taught in these new standards and taught generally in states, the whole notion of white supremacy is that because whites, on average, have higher incomes, do better on education tests and so on, than do other races, that has to be because they are discriminating. And according to Marxists, this is inherent in all whites to discriminate against other races. So everything is based on racism. And at the core of racism is the notion of white supremacy, that whites have advantages. Well, if a person is interested in what the information shows, then that person will want to know that with result, for instance, academic scores, the NAEP test, the ACT, SAT, and so on, that there is an extremely high correlation between high academic scores and intact two-parent families. And as the number of intact two-parent families declines, so do academic scores decline in direct proportion. And for example, on these various tests, it's not whites that score the highest, it's Orientals that score the highest. In order of test scores, Orientals are at the top. And by the way, Orientals have the highest level of intact two-parent families, okay? Second are whites, and whites have the second frequency of two-parent families. Third are Hispanics, and Hispanics have the third highest rate of two-parent families. And last are blacks. Well, blacks have the highest, last are blacks. Blacks have the lowest rate of two-parent families. So the reason that whites do better on tests than blacks is because of the two-parent family phenomena. There's a liberal researcher several generations ago worked on this and wrote on it extensively. Her name was Barbara Defoe Whitehead. And she found, contrary to her expectations, that if on these tests, if you adjusted for family structure, single-parent families versus two-parent families, that the racial disparities virtually disappeared. Okay, there is another researcher by the name of David Blankenhorn found exactly the same thing. Well, what did the left do with these studies? I mean, they just ignore them. They don't care what's true. They don't care what's real. Okay? They only care about their ideology. They are blind followers of a wretched atheistic ideology, and that's what is governing what's taking place in our schools, not information, not genuine academics.
All right. Now you had sent us a couple of photos, and I want our viewers to be able to see a couple of those. Thomas, do you want to just roll through a couple of those? Okay, so tell us, this is the book, Hegemony and Revolution. This one's by is it Adamson that this one's by?
Yeah, Antonio Gramsci. Yeah, that's one of his famous books, translated by Joseph Buttigieg.
Pete Buttigieg's dad translated this.
He translated. He was not the only translator, but he was the primary translator for Gramsci's works. And so the translations came, as I said, right when the hard left, the Marxists were groping for a solution. How do we deal with this failure of Marxist thought? And they all glommed on to Gramsci. And so Gramsci is the leading Marxist intellectual in the West today, the most influential. And it's amazing that this information has been so kept, so hidden, from.
Most people don't know who Gramsci is. If it weren't for Michelle Lintz and your group talking about him often, I don't think I would have known. And so so there's him, and then the other one that you mentioned, who I don't know, that's even less of someone I know. If you want to say his name again.
Paulo
Ferrara.
Freire.
I don't know.
Freire. Yeah, it's F-R-I-R-I-E, Freire. He's a Brazilian Marxist.
Yeah.
And by the way, everybody agrees that these people are Marxists. There's no doubt about that. But they're on the cultural Marxism side. And so they've rejected economic Marxism and says it's culture, so they have to change the culture.
So Paulo was influenced by John Dewey, Karl Marx. There's several more, but Mao Zedong, or Mao Zedong, Antonio Gramsci, Sigmund Freud, Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, Charles Darwin. So there's just a few, so this is what people need to know and don't know. Herbert Marcuse, which Brandon House talks about all the time, Saul Alinsky. So those are some of the folks who just had influence over Paulo Freire. And where was he again? Where do we find him?
From Brazil. And he basically, Freire is basically the application guy. I mean, Gramsci was the idea guy. He said, here's the big picture. Here's what we're dealing with. This is what we need to change. And then Freire said, well, here's how we do it. So he's the methods guy, and he is incredibly influential in education theory today.
And some would say that he was a Christian. I don't know how you can be a Christian and push Marxism.
No, I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that go ahead.
It's on the journals of charlotte.edu.dsj. I'll send it to you. So just you can see it and have a laugh for yourself.
I'll probably have a pretty good laugh. By the way, one of the ways that the new Marxist Gramsci ideology is promoted is called SEL. It's social emotional learning. And they have what they call a Christian version of SEL. All right. And some private schools, Christian schools, have, out of total ignorance, I presume, adopted the methods of that. Well, what should I say? The command center for SEL is a group called
Consortium on Castle.
A group called Castle, and they say the purpose of SEL is to teach equity, flat out. Purpose is to teach equity. Keep in mind, equity is the #1 central doctrine of Marxist ideology. So that's what it's all about. So
which is not
maybe I
the
should
same.
give an example. Maybe I should give an example of how they do that.
Hold on. Go to break. Bring your example on as soon as we get back from this. Is our last break, and then we'll have about 8 minutes left. So stay tuned with Alan Quist.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
So I've already sent that link to you, Alan, that talks about Apollo being described as a Christian, but a word to all of our viewers. Be careful what you read. The credentials, the notation in a bio or a description does not necessarily mean relationship or right thinking or right teaching. So I sent that to Alan, and you were going to give us an example, Alan.
Yeah, let me give an example of how SEL, which is one of the most popular and apparently harmless, but it's not harmless, a way that the Marxist ideology is taught. And I'm going to take this example right out of their own materials. I didn't make it up. They use it to explain how it works. So in social emotional learning, and of course, a big question is the purpose of education to quote unquote educate emotions, or is it about academics? So, but anyway, social emotional learning, here's what you have. You've got a teacher, and then you've got the students all around in a circle so they can talk to one another. And the teacher starts asking them questions like, well, Johnny, how are you today? Well, I'm fine. Well, how about you, Judy? Well, I don't know. I had kind of a disagreement with my mom this morning, and so the teacher wants to get the students on an emotional level, not an intellectual level, on an emotional level. And then the teacher says, 2 weeks ago we went on a field trip, and how many of you went? 2/3 of the kids raised their hands. You know why not everybody went? It's because you had to pay for it. And some kids have parents that didn't have the money to pay for it, so they weren't able to go on the field trip. Do you think that's right? Do you think that's right that some kids couldn't go because their parents didn't have the money? Well, so you can see where this is going. It's going to the idea you should have equal outcomes. All kids should have had the same opportunity to go on the field trip. And so you then talk about the importance of equal outcomes in everything, not just field trips, but school scores, discipline, and all this stuff. So that's one of the examples that they give. So they can teach anything with this method, but what they actually are instructed to teach, and this is going to, in Minnesota, this comes down from the Department of Education. What they're instructed to teach are all the doctrines of Marxist thought. So it's all very deceptive. But let me give a quick example on equity, if I might. And this is a real example. It's one that I was involved in myself. I was contacted by a couple of members of a church that I have a church I'm very familiar with, and they were concerned about a college that was developing a new program based on equity. All right. And this particular church body is a conservative church body, and the people who were somewhat familiar with it said, this is trouble. And again, equity is the primary central doctrine of Marxism. So could I help? And I said, well, let me see what I can do. So anyway, periodically I put some articles on Substack. So I ran a couple articles on Substack pointing out that equity is Marxist. And if you're teaching a program based on equity, you're basically teaching Marxism, whether you understand it or not. Well, this particular college was developing a new distance learning program, and the information that was put out on it said flat out, this is a program that is based on equity. So I suspected that the college leadership had no idea what equity is, and I can almost make that prediction about anybody, sad to say. So I went to talk to the college president, and I let him know, I arranged this 2 or 3 days ahead of time, and I made sure to include to him by email a couple of the Substack articles I'd written because I wanted him to know that I was willing to publish information. It has a way of putting the fear of God in people. So I went to talk to him and I explained to him what equity was. He had no idea. And this is typical, in college administrators. They don't know what equity is. It's typical for college profs. They don't know what equity is. It's not just, the rest of us that don't know. So I explained to them that if they were teaching a new program, forming a new program, distance learning program based on equity, that whether they liked it or not, whether they knew it or not, they would be teaching basic principles of Marxist ideology. That's all he had to know. And he assured me that would be the end of that. Okay. But see, people don't know, and they may mean well, which I assume he did, but they don't know. And so it's extremely important, and hats off to you, Tamara, to educate people on what these things are, what they mean. And so I congratulate you on what you're doing.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that very much. Folks like all of you at CPL Action make it much easier because you bring all the information to our viewers and then you give them resources. They can take them to their schools, to their legislators, and just help better educate their own families. So thank you for everything that you do. Those 10 books, I think, again, folks, you could just do a search and find some of those books that Alan's written. I think they'd be great for your resource. The event they're having is April 25th, and there's the flyer again. Thomas, thank you so much for that. We'll go ahead and tell you about our event coming up the 31st. Rob McCoy, the man who helped shape the worldview of Charlie Kirk, who helped Charlie Kirk learn how to help others defend their faith and what we believe, will be in Iowa, March 31st, free of charge, 7 p.m. at the Airport Holiday Inn. There is a link, that QR code, to reserve your spot. But if you're in driving distance, I would recommend you come. Other than the TSA and the problems there with the closed government, we're right next to the airport. It's convenient for you to get here. So that's coming up. And one more quick announcement, if you can, Thomas, at the very bottom of the email, there was a link to the birthday party. Tomorrow is 172 years for the Republican Party. 172 is the birthday of the Republican Party. Started in 1854 it was. So you know what? Started in a church, by the way, and we may not be perfect, but we are the party that still honors the God who is. So there you go. Happy birthday, Republican Party tomorrow. My thanks to Alan Quist, Julie Quist, the team at CPL Action for all the great information you continue to bring us. CPL Action is a great place for you to go and find resources. And as we tell all of you to live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, but never be complacent.